Welcome to the Great Man Within podcast. Every episode is designed to help you discover and live the great man within you. Hello, gentlemen. Dominic Rolling Solo here today, and I wanted to start you off with a story about the tale of two wolves. An old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life. "A fight is going on inside of me," he said to the boy. "It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego." He continued, "The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too." The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" And the old Cherokee simply replied, "The one that you feed." Now, I think that all of us can relate to having those two parts of us that are oftentimes at odds or even at sometimes feeling at war with one another. The part of us that is evil, the one that's afraid, the one that's prone to anger, the one that's resentful, the one that feels guilt or shame, these negative emotions that oftentimes can hijack our existence, and that other part of us that comes from a state of inspiration, joy, empathy, curiosity, connection, right? These other more positive emotions that we all know exist inside of us, love, right? These are two parts of us that we've experienced in subtle and not so subtle ways. And the thing is about this story of the Tale of Two Wolves, it's so beautiful in its simplicity and its brevity and the potency with which it delivers a message that is so resoundingly clear. But stories like these oftentimes don't do enough to change our behaviors. Because we hear a story like this and we nod and we tip our caps to the wisdom of whoever wrote it. And then we go back to our everyday business, feeding the wolf and keeping the wolf alive that sustains on the very things that we wish to eliminate from our lives. We feed the wolf who is prone to anger, to jealousy, to feeling guilt or shameful, right? Why does this happen? I believe the reason why this happens is because you've made a deal with the devil. We all have made a deal with the devil. I've made a deal with the devil times in my life. And the deal with the devil is this, is that those negative emotions can fuel us. Think about it. How many times have you gotten up off your ass when you were deathly afraid? How many times have you delivered in the nick of time, right? Procrastinated to the very last moment, whether it was studying for finals when I was in college or getting that last piece of work done, right? Like you wait till the last minute because there's that fear of not delivering, fear of the consequences. Anger, rage, resentment, jealousy. These are all things that create movement, motion, energy inside of us that can propel us into action. And the deal with the devil is he takes a piece of your soul in exchange for you receiving energy to mobilize. And then we can become addicted to the fuel that is rotting our systems, but the very place from which we run our lives. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Anxiety and anxiousness was a big part and still is a part of my life, right? I'm prone to anxiety. It's one of the reasons why I believe I became so obsessed with the future. If you've ever heard about depression is basically, feeling stuck in the past. And anxiety is about being preoccupied with fear of the future. right? So that was a big thing for me. I've never really dwelled on the past, but I've always been hyper vigilant and obsessed with the things about my future and what could go wrong and all the scenarios that could play out. So anxiousness was one of the things that I hitched my action wagon to. It was the place from which I took most, if not all, of my action. And it kept me in motion. I did a lot of, quote, great work from that place. I achieved a lot of, quote, success from that place. And I put quotes around these things because compared to what I had ever known, compared to my standards, those things were successful. The achievements that I had, I would have, back in that way of being, I would have looked at and been proud of myself because I didn't know any other way. I truly did not take seriously this concept of having another wolf inside of me. That if I were to feed that, the one that comes from a place of love, from inspiration, from a place of purpose, from living my fullest potential, from a place of curiosity and connection, if I continued to feed that, I could live more and more of my life around that. And the less I feed this other wolf, the more it starves out, the less power and control that it has over me. This past Monday night in my men's group, where I've been a part of with Brian for the past few years, I had the distinct honor of actually leading our men's group in a workshop, in a session that I got to design. We typically follow a formula that we've used for the past 2 years, but now we're starting to experiment with other formulas. And our typical formula for the past 2 years has been, that's a forum where we go and practice emotional fluency, right? Emotional fluency is the ability to feel a feeling, name that feeling, to be with that feeling, like to stay present with that feeling, to express that feeling, right? Communicate it to others, and then to shift that feeling, right? That's what I call emotional fluency. So feeling a feeling, naming the feeling, being present with that feeling, expressing that feeling, and then shifting the feeling if you desire. That's typically what we do. And so it's oftentimes whatever emotions or feelings that are present in that moment. And we're not there to solve any problems. So oftentimes we're bringing our problems to that forum, right? I would say like 80% plus of the emotions that we express in that forum are negative emotions. Why? Oftentimes we don't have a chance to process that in real life, right? But when I ran the workshop this past Monday night, I said to the men, this forum has been so powerful for me to process my emotions as they're arising, right? What's here in the present moment. But a critical corollary to my work that I practice outside of this container is me feeling into the feelings and starting to practice the emotions that I want to be more present in my life. Because I've recognized that if I don't intentionally practice the feelings or emotions that I want in my life, they don't seem to happen very often. You know what I mean? This is common fucking sense, right? Like, I was an athlete growing up. I'm not going to be hitting line drives in baseball if I'm not practicing in the batter's box, taking a bunch of reps, right? I'm not going to be catching passes, running full speed with a defender breathing down my neck during game day unless I'm doing that in practice. Why would I expect happiness to happen to me if I'm not practicing getting into that state, knowing the things that allow me to be there, right? So it seems ridiculously common sense, but common sense ain't so common, right? Like, when was the last time you practiced the feelings that you want more of in your life? Last night was a beautiful, beautiful forum for something like this. Last night, we ran a workshop. I ran a workshop called Design the Next Year of Your Life, 2021 I think we had 115 men show up live. We've had over 250 men register for that. It was a 90-minute session to truly envision 2021 being the most meaningful, prosperous, and fulfilling year of your life, right? And one of the first questions that I asked the men in that group, I said, guys, I want to see by a show of hands, how many of you truly believe that 2021 could be that year that's the most meaningful, fulfilling, and prosperous year of your life? Let me see by a show of hands. Most of the guys raised their hands. And I said, while I appreciate you raising your hand to that, I could argue that you don't truly believe that. At least not beyond the intellectual level, right? You intellectually may believe that's possible, but not in your guts, not in your bones, not in your balls, not in your DNA. Do you really actually believe that? Because if you believe that, wouldn't you be dreaming bigger about what's possible for you in 2021? Wouldn't you be taking the rest of 2020 a hell of a lot more seriously so that you can finish this year strong and set yourself up for success in 2021? Wouldn't you already have a game plan mapped out, at least to some degree, for 2021 if you truly believed that it could be the most meaningful, fulfilling, and prosperous year of your life? Right? It's a choice to believe that that is a possibility for you. It will not happen by happenstance. If it does, then you're one of the lucky few. But what I have found as a theme in my life over these last number of years, over this last decade really, is I've continued to be right about my future and the year ahead being the best year of my life because I make it fucking so. I choose it. And even in a year like 2020, with a pandemic that obliterated the business that I had built, and Porngate, which many of you guys know about, which obliterated the remaining business that was left after COVID obliterated most of my business, about my Bach and book publishing fiasco. Amidst all of that, this has been the best year of my life. And I sure as hell intend for next year to be the best year of my life. Why? Because I make it so. And a big part of it is the mindset that comes along with that. And practicing, choosing to practice gratitude, practicing optimism, practicing what it's like to experience adversity as a beautiful gift for growth and seeing what I'm made of. These things do not happen, guys, without practice. One of the things I asked the men last night in this Design the Next Year of Your Life workshop was, what are the goals that you have for 2021? And we got a really cool, diverse group of goals that many men had, set out for themselves. Some of the guys in the group were, I'm looking to achieve financial independence. Other guys were looking to launch their business. Other guys wanted to get in the best shape of their lives. Other guys wanted to be more present or to deepen their relationship with their significant other. On and on it went. And I said, these are great goals. But here's a principle that I really want you to understand because it will help to guide your entire life once you understand it. Every goal that you set, every single goal that you set, is because you believe that it will bring you a feeling that you are seeking, that you believe will be brought to you through the achievement of that goal. Let me try to say that again more eloquently. Every goal you set is because you believe that goal will deliver a feeling once you achieve that goal. So let me make it real for you. How many men do I know who crave the feeling of freedom? That's the feeling that men are after. They want a feel. Many men are after. I want to feel free. I want to feel in charge of my life. I want to feel like money's not an issue, right? I want to feel that I can build my life the way I want, right? So how many men decide to become an entrepreneur because they want that sense of autonomy and freedom, but forget that that's what they were after when they chose to become an entrepreneur and then collapse under the weight of 18-hour workdays, 7 days a week? Oftentimes, we forget that we're after a feeling that we want, and we skip over the feeling and we set these goals instead. And oftentimes the goals or the actions that we take deliver us in the exact opposite direction of the feelings that we want. Right? Take another example of that is a man who wants freedom but stays in the corporate space. Well, a guy who's in the corporate space oftentimes, and I had a chance to see this in the 15 years I spent in the corporate space, I want to be financially free. I want to provide a life of security for my family. So I'm going to go and take the biggest jobs humanly possible. Rise right up those ranks, right? Like get the CEO position or the VP position, senior VP position, on and on. Run units of hundreds or thousands of people that report up to you. And while you do that, you lose the flexibility in your life if you're not smart about it, right? So now you're working 12 hours a day. You're always on call. You're traveling around the world in the pre-COVID days, not seeing your family anymore. And now you're basically a slave to being on call all day long. Where is that freedom that you wanted in your life? So last night we talked all about how do you start with the feelings first? Who is the man you want to become in 2021? Right? I want to feel like I'm living a life of inspiration. I make choices from a place of love, not anxiety or fear. Right? I want to believe that every single day, that no matter how grandly I can imagine the payoffs in my life, that I can't even comprehend how much better it's going to be. Like this trust and faith that everything I want is actually going to be delivered even more beautifully, poetically, surprisingly than I could ever possibly imagine. Like almost seducing my life to be better than I could even comprehend. These are feelings, guys, that you have to practice in order for it to feel like it will become a reality. I made a deal with the devil early on in my life to allow anxiety and fear to run my life because it is a fuel source that's readily available. But it's toxic fuel, guys, and it will drain the fuck out of you. Think about this fuel as like gas in a gas tank, right? It will keep you going for a while, but once that gas is burned up, your tank's on E and you'll be exhausted. I know, I've been there, you've been there. And then you gotta maybe prop yourself back up with stimulants or more fear or create more chaos in your life, and on the cycle it goes. It's not sustainable. But when you're talking about feeding the wolf that sustains on joy, happiness, connection, love, that fuel source is clean. That fuel source is like the light from the sun. It's not going to burn out anytime in our lifetime, right? You never hear someone say, oh my God, I'm so exhausted from being grateful all day long today. Like it just doesn't happen. But sure as hell, you're exhausted from being jealous, angry, afraid, right? That's no way to live. So you have a choice now. As you are finishing up these final few days of 2020, which wolf are you going to feed? Are you going to continue to feed the wolf that feeds off of fear? Or are you going to feed the wolf that feeds off of love, joy, connection, inspiration? This is where your purpose and your potential are fully realized. The great man within you very clearly feeds off of one source, and it's that one good wolf source. The great man within you doesn't feed off of fear. He learned a long time ago that that is a deal with the devil that he would never make. And so your choice is here in front of you. What are you going to be practicing as you move forward into the greatest potential, most meaningful, fulfilling, and prosperous year of your life? And if you are serious about practicing feeding this good wolf, then I have you covered. In January, we are doing a free 31-day Mentally Tougher Man Challenge. Every single day of that month, you are going to get an email or a text message, or both if you choose, with a new challenge of the day spanning 7 categories: cold showers, meditation, breath work, reading passages from men's work, journaling prompts, push-ups, and then sharing your experience. Each day of the week has one of those 7 themes. And as we go through the month, the challenges get a little bit tougher. Cold shower goes from 15 seconds all the way up to 2 minutes by the end of the month. Meditation starts at 5 minutes, goes to 20-minute meditation at the end of the month, and so on and so on. Can you imagine feeding the good wolf 31 consecutive days in a row? How might you feel in the month of January? How might that be a domino effect for the remainder of your year, living that great man inside of you? So, in the show notes, you can link to thegreatmanwithin.com to register for that I think we already have like 115 men who have signed up for it as of today. We're looking to get hundreds more guys. We want to be on this journey together. So in the show notes or at any point in time, go to thegreatmanwithin.com and register for that. And these guys from last night really lit it the fuck up in the Design the Next Year of Your Life webinar. And these guys are already in the Facebook group chatting about it as well. So head over to the Facebook group if you aren't already a part of it. The Great Man Within podcast Facebook group. I'm going to link that in the show notes too. We will see you there. And I'm developing a King's Feast to help you feed your good wolf. Stick with me and I'll make sure that fucker gets fed.